Hi everybody, I wanted to go through the sales contract private well and or septic addendum so you can see how to fill this one out. Alright, so this addendum is made on, and you're going to click the little box from Instinet, and you're going to mark February 22nd, 2014 to a sales contract dated. Now, I'm assuming that you would have been filling these out at the same time. Now, your purchaser, whatever your purchaser's name is, this would be buyer Bob, okay, and the seller is seller Sally. And the property is going to be 123 Main Street. Okay. Anytown, USA. Actually, it's going to be Virginia, USA. All right, so let's get down to the good stuff. Well, water quality. So the water quality is the seller's expense is what I usually put. So if the property is on a private well as indicated in the utilities paragraph, then the seller at the seller's expense shall deliver to the other party on or before settlement an inspection report prepared by the Virginia Certified Laboratory dated not more than 120 days. Now make sure that this is dated not too much further past. Again, they usually will either go through a health department or they'll go through a private insurance, like a private well company. Most people go through just a private company that handles well and septics. The health department typically takes much longer. Now, I would highly recommend that you have your client call the health department or that you give them a number and to call the health department so that they can find out if there's any reports on this particular property on Main Street or on the house that you are writing an offer for. But other than that, the best bet really is to go through a private company because they're much faster. Now, what are we going through the private company for? Indicating that the well water is free from contamination. In other words, can I drink the water or will I die? Again, I always put the seller's expense. Our old well and septic addendum already had it in there that it was the seller's expense. So make sure that you're marking the box. Now, if the buyer wants to pay for it themselves, knock themselves out. Again, I do, to be honest with you, I do recommend buyer always pays for their own inspections. But this one is they can't mess this one up. I mean, somebody could die if the well water is not free from contamination. So, you know, that's just something that I don't think that sellers or any company would give a false report for. However, if it's something that your buyers are concerned with, I know if I was buying my own property, to be honest with you, I would check my own box and pay for it myself. But traditionally, the seller pays for this. So, you know, that's what I put for my clients. Okay, so let's go on down here. Well, inspection contingency. Now, here's the difference, guys. The quality of the water and the actual well integrity. Is the well itself going to crumble in and fall down and break, and then we have to dig a whole new well? You know, it could cave in. That is something totally different than the actual water. Is the water have contaminations in it? In other words, let me just explain to you one thing that you guys might not be aware of. And you should always call well companies. You can call well and septic companies, and they just ask them questions. They will tell you a wealth of knowledge. I've learned just from calling and asking questions. Do you know if they had, for example, a smaller yard and they had 5 dogs on it, there's a higher chance that the well water has contaminants in it? Can you believe that? It happens all the time, according to the health department, because that's what they told me. So this is what we're talking about as far as making sure that the water is safe. And this one down here is the integrity of the well itself. Has it been caved in? So that's something that needs, and of course the pumps. Are the pumps in need of replacement or anything of that nature? So this contract is or is not contingent until 9 p.m. and I usually give it 10 days because we usually can get a person out there pretty quick to get the well inspected itself. Now, a lot of times, guys, be careful because the well inspector will want to test the water as well. So if you marked in here that the buyer was going to pay for it, great. If you didn't, then make sure you let the well company know not to test the water, okay, because that's not necessary. All right, so again, 10 days. You could do 15 days again if you want to call your now if you're doing a private company to do this kind of thing, you might want to give more time, you know, for this as well. Okay, just to let you guys know, this would be the buyer's discretion and expense. All right, so upon inspection of the well by a professional insured inspector at the purchaser's discretion, so your purchaser is required to test the well, okay? They pay for that on their own, but the well water could be the expense of the seller. The well inspection contingency will terminate at the well deadline unless a report, an inspection report, and a written addendum has been given to the seller. At that point, the seller, at the seller's option, would, and I always put 3 days here, okay? The seller has 3 days to make up their mind. And the reason why I put 3 is because sometimes they need to get repair estimates. And I think 3 days is enough time to get a repair estimate. But you know, if you want to put 5, go for it. After that, the purchaser really doesn't need to get repair estimates of their own, so I always just put 1 day. Let's move this ball along. 1 day, 1 day, 1 day. We can counteroffer anything. But the first one is a little bit more for me because I always know we always struggle with this, trying to get as many repair people out as possible. So if you want to put 5, knock yourself out. I kind of like things to go a little bit quicker. I like to put a fire, you know, not too much stress, but a little bit of fire under everybody's butt to get it going. All right, so that's the well part. Now the septic part, septic inspection. If the property is on a private septic or private alternate sewage disposal system, as indicated in the utilities paragraph of the regional sales contract, which hopefully you've marked that box. Seller at the seller's expense and sole risk of damage, or purchaser at the purchaser's risk. I always choose the seller. This is not our problem. It's the septic inspection should be done by the seller. But again, if you want to put the buyer for your own, make sure that it's an unbiased opinion, then go for it. Okay, and so how long do we have? Again, I mean, 10 to 15 days is more than enough to get your inspection, your well and septic inspected. Okay, so that would be after the date of ratification with an inspection report dated not more than 180 days prior to settlement from the local health department or a licensed insured septic installer. Again, I always go the private route because unless you're going to the health department, you're going to need at least 15 days. But if you go to a private company, I mean, they typically can do it very quickly. So, I mean, I've had people out there the next day. So I wouldn't worry too much as long as you're going the private route. Okay, all right, again, or repair firm indicated whether there is an evidence of malfunction. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I check all 4 boxes. I do it every time. Sometimes they counter me back. I want a walkover visual inspection. But I also want a pumping. This is the biggest to me, is pumping and inspection of all the tanks. I really need all the, everything pumped out and a nice clean tank for my new buyers. Excavation and visual inspection of all the distribution boxes. I can tell you guys, of all the ones I've done, pretty much every single one had problems with the distribution box because most people will uncheck this box because they don't want to go through that nonsense. But the distribution box is this little concrete box that's buried about probably 4 or 5 feet down. I could be wrong, but it's not that far down. And it typically gets roots that break up the concrete. So I don't know what the purpose of the distribution box is. Again, you're more than welcome to talk to a septic person. I just know everyone I've done has had a problem with it. If sometimes it's just little hairline cracks and they just need to repair it. It never costs that much to repair it. So again, it could cause your buyer a problem later on, so I always ask for it. Now, if you don't have an alternate treatment system, you don't need to do that. An alternative treatment unit would be used on, again, I got this information from a septic company. I asked them exactly what that is. That would be on property that the land did not do a good job perking, so they need to have separate systems on there to help absorb, and help, essentially to help the septic system run properly. It's a special type of septic system. So if there's not an alternate treatment, then you can just leave that on. I usually, because I don't know, will check all 4. That's what I do. And then I leave this blank, guys, because I don't know if the seller has a maintenance contract. Only the seller knows. So when I deliver it to the listing agent, they're going to fill it out afterwards. Now, guys, if you're listing a property that has a septic system, you should just go ahead and attach this form and put it in there. Or, maybe put in the notes that the seller does have a maintenance contract or the seller does not have a maintenance contract. Maybe that would help people who are submitting offers submit it a little bit easier. Or you could pick up the phone and call and ask, hey, does the seller have a maintenance contract? Now, if it's a bank owned, most likely there's no maintenance contract. So I just want to let you know that that's just typical with banks. If there ever was a maintenance contract, the bank has no idea. Okay, so if the seller does have a maintenance contract, the seller will provide a copy of the purchaser to the purchaser, and the maintenance contract shall or shall not convey. Again, I wouldn't have those answers unless I picked up the phone and called, or if nobody answers you, I leave it blank and submit it and let them fill it out. All right, so septic repairs. If the septic inspection report indicates any evidence of malfunction, the purchaser may, within blank days of delivery of the septic inspection report, to all parties, deliver to seller a written addendum of requested repairs or replacement items. Okay, so you get so many days to submit those reports. Okay, again, I think 10 days is more than enough time to get it all done. If you want to do 15, go for it. That's how many days you have. If you want to do 5, because this is really after you've got your report already done. You just have to deliver it. So you might want to just do 3. A seller's option to, so again, this is where I usually put 3 because they need to get repair estimates, and other people's, opinions. And how much it's going to cost. So that's why I give it 3. Other than that, I'm just doing 1 day back and forth. 1 day back and forth. That's all we need. And then everybody signs it, and that's it, guys. That's it for your well and septic addendum. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me.